If this is your first time here, I would love for you to subscribe because this channel is all about creativity and inspiration. I hope you feel inspired to create something amazing. Feel free to share the inspiration because life is a journey we make together. And now I will show you how this Crazy Patch project was made. I love Crazy Patch. It's a great way to use up extra fabric. Comes out great, love to do it. And this is from some old Crazy Patch projects that I've done in the past. Never throw away your templates because it can give you a guide to kind of where to start. So I think these are too big. And I'm going to be doing a couple different areas, at least 3, and I think this is going to be a good size. With Crazy Patch, you always start with a 5-sided shape. And if you make your templates out of, a little bit more durable material, you can keep them and they come in handy. So I think I'm gonna have these 3 kind of in this area and I'm gonna just join them up. So let's get started. So select your fabric. It has to be bigger than the template. I'm gonna go right here, right there. I'm gonna choose, kind of use up what you can, your smallest pieces. That works great. Cut those shapes out, just transfer them over, or it doesn't have to be that precise. I've often done them just in my hand. So you just want to make sure that you have the 5 sides to work with. Perfect. And I really like to work with like 3 different areas and kind of at the same time. So next step is I want to pick a fabric that kind of goes with this. Maybe a light would be good. That is the length of one of my sides that I'm working on. Put them face together. Pin them. Kind of go to your next piece. Now this is a great way to use up old pieces, so as long as it goes the length of what you want to work on, but you're also going to cut this angle off, so you have to make sure that this angle is going to be where you want it as well. So that works perfect for that. Start with your smallest pieces. I was taught to go in a clockwise direction, so whatever you pick out, you just kind of keep going. You can use any fabric. I just don't like the 2 fabrics to butt up against each other that are the same, and so I'm just kind of picking through some of my smaller pieces. Iron each piece. So for this next step, I really like using my acrylic ruler that is clear so that I can see where I am cutting. There's no measurements to deal with in this. It's all just following your initial angle. So now I'm going to be working on this side, something. That's good. Like that. So I have my 3 pieces done, and let's look at, so this was my centerpiece, and the first seam was here, the second seam, the third, fourth, fifth, same with here. So you go all the way around and you have 5 different fabrics on each of your centerpieces. So now I want to be able to join these pieces, add fabric to the areas where I need to add fabric to, and it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. One thing I love about Crazy Patch, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no pattern except your centerpiece. Just kind of have to go for it and just whatever feels right, you know, not kind of disperse your heavies colors, your light colors. Try not to put 2 fabrics of the same. Crazy Patch is really one of my favorites. It's a great way to use up scraps. It's fun. So now what I do is I'm trying to just cover my original shape. So this fits nicely. If I put this here, and you have to kind of evaluate what you're going to be cutting off. So there's going to be a curve here, but I don't think that it'll be that big a deal for that to be cut off. So this would work nice, but I don't like these 2 pieces right up against each other. So I'm going to slip in fabric here, and I'm going to put one right here, and then we'll see what it looks like. And when you're deciding on a piece, make sure that you have a little tail here, because when you open it up, you want to be able to extend that angle, so you want to make sure that there is enough fabric. So just give yourself a little bit on each side. So I am going to lose this portion right here. That's okay. That's, you know, just part of it. So I'm going to sew this one right on top of here. Straight down. So now that I have the top done, and I know that it is bigger than my batting, that I've cut down to size, I have measured. It's exactly what I want. So now I'm going to just go along and cut out the top. So I'm moving on to my binding. I'm a big fan of the 3-inch strips. So I'm going to take my strips to my machine. I'm going to put them one right on top of the other. This is why. I have a directional pattern. So I want to make sure that when I lay the next strip on top, that it's going to continue. So what you do is you just lay the fabric right on top, 90 degrees, and I leave like a 1/4 inch on this side and on the top. I don't really pin it because it's not that that big. But what I do is I drop my needle, and right in that corner is where I'm going to drop my foot. And I'm going to sew directly across to that intersection. And when I open it up, voila. But when you're working with the directional fabric, you just kind of have to make sure that you know which way it's going. So I want to put this piece right on top. And depending how much binding I have, sometimes I just do it right here on my ironing board. I open up my seams here. So now I'm just going to iron my binding right in half, all the way down. Okay, my binding is all done, it's ironed, and now what I want to do is I'm just going to put my raw edge here, and I'm going to just kind of ease it around. So I'm going to start pinning. I'm going to give myself some room to attach it, so I'm going to pin it here, but I'm not going to start sewing until I don't know, about 6 inches, 8 inches. So now that my round crazy patch placemat has the binding pinned all the way around, I'm just going to sew it directly onto the placemat. So I've got my seam all the way around, except right here where I'm going to need to join my binding. So taken a last stitch, back stitched it, and I'm going to take it out of the machine and make that one last seam that joins the binding, and then we can finish up. Now because this is on a curve, it's a little bit more challenging, but just make sure that you give yourself just a little bit room. Make sure it's pinned. Okay, I have a gauge here and I know my seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is cut my top piece of the binding that much longer. I'm going to mark it. Sometimes this works just by pressing it. If you're not comfortable with that, just make sure that you mark it so that you can see where to cut. Grab a pin. If you're more comfortable pinning it all the way down, that's fine. Or just put it right back into your machine. Put that seam in right across. And go ahead and put the seam all the way around. So I really like using the Wonder Clips on any type of binding that I'm doing. So I'm just now finishing up with my Crazy Patch placemat. That's for a round table. And I'm putting in the last seam right on the back. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. Now when attaching the binding to any type of quilt or placemat that requires you hand sew on the back, I really love using these Wonder Clips. They're very helpful. And I also like to use this tailor's thimble. I put it on my thumb so I can push the needle through. I find it very helpful. So you grab a little bit of the back, your main fabric, come up right on the side of your binding, and take a locking stitch every once in a while to lock it in place. But I really do like using this tailor's thimble. Another way you can put it in is kind of use more of a running stitch, or actually kind of like a quilting stitch. Just up and down and then press it through. All the way around. There you go. Happy quilting. So cute.